Amidst the majestic Himalayas, hidden amongst the beautiful valleys and snowy peaks, is a small glacial lake filled with skeletons, piles of bones, broken but grinning skulls litter the lake floor. A century old mystery of the infamous Roopkund Lake. Fascinating it may sound, but the question remains.
How did they end up on top of a 8400 feet tall mountain?
Who are these skeletons?
So let's decode. Situated about 173 kilometers away from Dehradun and miles away from civilization lies Roopkund. To reach this lake, you have to trek amongst the beautiful alpine meadows, those lumbering oak trees forest, for 2 to 3 weeks. Concealed in these mountains, the lake was forgotten for 1,000 years until it was rediscovered by a forest ranger in 1942. In that period, the British were wary of Japanese invasion force, which never came. When the rangers discovered skeleton with Asian traits in such a secluded location, it was believed that this was the Japanese army, which perished trying to cross the Himalayas. But on second look, these bones were aged to be much older, which only deepened the mystery. Since then, there have been plethora of theories that claim to solve or perhaps decode this Roopkund mystery. From being believed to be a burial site to a pilgrimage, there are many scientific perspectives and folklore stories. Before we get down to the nitty-gritty of scientific explanation, let's hear some folk tales.
There are some engrossing tales associated with Roopkund. Nanda Devi being the main deity of Uttarakhand, the stories and songs associated with her gives us a deep insight into how the skeletons might have got there. Once upon a time, in the district of Chamoli, under the long-lost Chanda dynasty, lived the beautiful princess Nanda. When the kingdom was invaded by a nearby Rohilla prince, Princess Nanda fled for her life into the Himalayas. She climbed into the snowy mountain peaks and was sheltered by the goddess mountain. Believed to have merged with the holy shrine, in time, Princess Nanda came to be worshipped by the locals as an avatar of goddess Durga. Even today, thousands of devotees flock to the mountains to worship the shrine. It has become a tradition for people to trek over 280 kilometers on foot, defying all the odds to pay their respect to the goddess. So every 12 years, we have Asia's longest pilgrimage. This pilgrimage is known as the Nanda Devi Rath Yatra. There's one such riveting tale that goes around. Before I go on with the story, please subscribe, and if you are intrigued, do like the video. So coming to the story, some locals believe many hundred years ago Jaswal, the king of Kannauj, and his queen had undertaken this pilgrimage towards Nanda Devi. They had taken an army of people including dancers for the yatra. The mood was that of merriment. En route the journey in one of the high camps, there was much singing and dancing throughout the night. This invoked the wrath of the Mata, and it is said that Nanda Devi had rained down hailstones as hard as iron. Some of these fractures on head and shoulders of the skeletons have signs of trauma. They also found remnants of musical instruments scattered in the vicinity of Roopkund. I think it's fair enough to speculate that the skeletons may have belonged to the king's entourage. But is that the whole story? In the 1950s, the Anthropological Survey of India confirmed that some of the injuries found on the skeletons may in fact be from hailstones, just as described in local legends and songs. But further radiocarbon dating revealed that bones were from very different time periods and that the remains belong to different distinct groups. Some were dated over a period of time around 800 BC, while the other skeletal remains of Mediterranean or Southeast Asian origin were dated to around 1800 BC. These findings counter the theory that the individuals died in a single catastrophic event. Since the mystery of Roopkund is much more difficult to decode, the real reason still eludes us. So let's try to make sense of what might have happened.
Now that we've heard the stories, let's drop into the science perspective. At around 4,900 meters above the sea level, Junar Gully was one of the popular trade and pilgrim routes in the medieval period. This route has some of the best views of Trishul Peak and wondrous alpine valleys. During the summer months, Junar Gully was heavily used by travelers visiting Homkund, Sila Samudra, and north upwards towards the Trishul Peak and Chamoli Valley. And yes, this path goes both ways. If we look at Junar Gully, the slope, which is the leeward side, this side is in the shadow of the mountain and so is sheltered from the fast, cold winds coming in from the south. The cliff at the edge of Junar Gully drops about 400 meters down to the Roopkund basin. The other edge of the lake forms kind of a bowl which keeps the lake sheltered and calm. The pristine beauty of Roopkund Glacial Lake would attract a lot of travelers who would set up camp and light coal fires on the shores of the lake. If we look at the location of Roopkund, the winds from the south are channeled onto Junar Gully, where they hit the cliff side at very high velocities. All the wind coming from the southern face rises up at the edge of the basin and then hits the wall. This causes a vortex of air trying to escape the depression. Due to the temperature of the lake, the heavier carbon dioxide gas settles down in the Roopkund basin over the lake surface. In winters, this carbon dioxide can also dissolve into the lake and form a dry ice slushy. At nights, when the travelers go to sleep and the warmth of the fire would slowly melt the carbon dioxide and cover the entire Roopkund basin, the travelers would suffocate in their sleep.
From pilgrims to adventure seekers, soldiers to traders, for thousands of years, this glacial lake has seen hundreds of souls sleep to their death. And all we see today are these preserved skeletons and their untold journeys. I hope you liked the video. A special shout out to Akash Umrao bhai for making this awesome thumbnail. And a huge thank you to everybody who supported us. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.